one of the benefits, maybe the only benefit, because there's not a lot of benefits here, but one of the benefits of watching a lot of these like anti-fandom, chuddy, grifty channels is anytime you're having a bad day, like you step in a puddle, you drop your pizza on the sidewalk, get a scratch in your car, something like that. You're like, the day can't get any worse. It's the worst possible day of my life, right? You turn on one of these videos and you're like, oh shit, I was wrong. I was wrong. I could be one of these guys who has to sit around pretending to be angry all the time and be spiteful all the time for my viewers because I can't like anything. Everything has to be awful, except for the stuff that I make or that people in my friend circle make. Outside of that, you have to be angry and spiteful about everything all the time. That's a miserable existence. So there's a benefit there. It's like, oh, life's not so bad. It could be worse. I could be one of them. This is a video about Star Wars, the new Star Wars news about Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, who was hired to direct a Star Wars movie. And apparently that upsets them. These adult men are mad that a woman is directing a Star Wars movie. They'll have you believe that everything about this person is, that she's not qualified to do this. And we're going to listen to them cope. So let's watch a little bit of this. I'm actually going to pitch this up a little bit. Playback speed, we're going to do 125 because they kind of long-winded here. It's an 11-minute clip. We're not going to watch the whole thing, don't worry. But let's go.
And I did talk about this earlier. I'm gonna reiterate some of the things that I did discuss before. But I have to say that I am thoroughly impressed by the ability to double down.
Way beyond doubling.
Yeah, triple, quadrupling, quintupling. I don't know, whatever. It is well beyond doubling, that's for sure. But it is impressive that they continue to do this, and we're gonna discuss that here in a bit.
He's insinuating that Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Disney, that in their mind have made so many mistakes that everything they do is a mistake moving forward. Honestly, there's not much I think that Star Wars could do, Lucas could do, to make them say anything positive about their media, because they ignored Andor. I don't remember them really talking about that, and that was a pretty much universally praised recent Star Wars project that felt more akin to like what these guys keep saying they want, but then when that happens, they don't really talk about it, because it's more profitable to hate stuff for them. So anyway,
I want to say thanks to you all. Alpha Core number 1 is less than about 1.5K away from 1.2 million. So
he's going to keep announcing it's $1 away. It's 75 cents away. It's 25 cents. Oh God, it's so funny. I'm leaving that one in.
Thank you all for all that love and support. And you guys have been showing it's been an incredible campaign, and we're a few weeks away before we start talking about spoiler stuff. And I know everybody's excited for that. That's going to be a fun time.
No,
let's just jump right into it, shall we? Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, director of upcoming Star Wars film. And she had some interesting things to say. This is on CNN. This will.
By the way, we still don't even know a lot of details of the movie. Like, we don't really know what the film is going to be. So they're angry about a movie where almost nothing has been released about the project. They're just preemptively angry about this.
Was some little, I don't know, special New Year stuff that they were doing. And of course, they were talking to Charmin here. Now, Charmin is, she has some interesting things to say. We're not going to play the video. I'm not going to have you guys suffer through that again. But I will highlight some of the things it is that she said in this interview. And by the way, if you watch it, just understanding the context here, guys, this is pretty much mentioned immediately. If you look at if you watched it live on CNN, which none of you did, but the little bar at the bottom, the footer, if you will, all it said was, hey, first woman of color and female director of.
Yeah, because they're promoting that to them. It's like, this is a newsworthy story. The same reason you're covering it is why they were covering it, except they don't hate her. They don't hate everything about her. So they're not going to put her on screen and make a mockery of her like you guys are doing, because that doesn't make any sense.
Start whatever. And then, of course, they name off a couple of accolades for Academy Awards. Apparently, those had nothing to do with this type of entertainment, by the way, and everything.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it had nothing to do with this. Everybody does something for the first time at some point. As long as the person hiring them thinks they're capable of doing the job, which is what you guys advocate for all the time, hire the best person for the job. If somebody is hiring them thinking they're the best person for the job, and right now we can only assume that's why, because there's nothing else saying otherwise, then it doesn't matter if it's their first time. just doesn't matter.
Like some documentary stuff or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they introduced her, and one of the first things she's like talking about is this first statement. So this first statement wasn't buried into the interview. It was like when she appeared on screen, this was what she said. And again, I'm reading this from Deadline, but it did come from CNN. So having an iconic franchise in her hands thrills the filmmaker, as she says, it was about time a woman took the reins of a project in Star Wars universe. And this is the exact quote.
So what's I'm trying to figure out what the problem with this is. This quote, what she's saying, doesn't really matter much when it comes to what the end product is or how the project plays out. It's very possible that she could do amazing and make an amazing movie, and then this line means nothing in the larger scheme of things for these guys. But because she's like promoting the fact that a woman is coming in and trying to sort of give that perspective to Star Wars, it's like they're losing their minds. It's like fragile masculinity. They're so fragile as men. They are threatened when a woman comes in and says, hey, I'm a woman. This is important to me. I want this to be a really big deal because there's a lot of weight on my shoulders, which, by the way, the fact that they're even making this video, making a mockery of her, proves that she does have to sort of show or again, prove that she is able to do the job as a woman, because that's the entire reason they're mocking her and making fun of her.
I'm very thrilled about the project because I feel what we're about to create is something very special.
Maybe
we're in 2024 now, and it's about time that we had a
Mm.
woman come forward to shape a story in a galaxy far, far away. The rest of the interview continues on talking about some activism stuff, which is how they introduced her, filmmaker and activist.
I mean, activism is important to some people. I mean, Eric July, you are a person that goes on The Blaze and talks about social issues and things like that. So in a lot of ways, you're also participating in activism. So I don't know what the issue with that is. Are people not allowed to have other things? Like you can only do this one thing, or can you do multiple things? It's really quite confusing, because a lot of people would say that your activism affects the kind of art that you're making. It's quite possible, because you do talk about that kind of stuff when you're talking about your comic books.
So that's very important. And we're going to talk about Pakistan and all that stuff. So look, I'm impressed, as I said before,
about that,
because, I guess us as people that are on YouTube and we do these videos, we kind of keep a hand on the pulse of the industry, right? It's kind of, I don't call it a job, but
not really. I mean, what you guys do is exactly what Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers said, is you take articles and you pick out like one line or one thing that somebody says, and then you make a whole video about it, which is exactly what you're doing here. You're taking that line of her talking about, it's about time a woman took the reins of a project in the Star Wars universe, and you're making an entire video out of that. And you're defaming her. You're questioning her ability to do her job because it's her first time doing a Star Wars movie. All of these ridiculous things, these ridiculous standards. So you're not really on the pulse of anything. You're just astroturfing based on one line.
That's more or less what it is that people are doing. So things that seem so obvious may not seem that obvious to them, but I would figure, at least now, considering the era around this type of stuff that forces female, all that shit, that didn't work out, okay?
Well, that was not them. The forces female thing, which I didn't even know this, somebody brought to my attention, was an advertising campaign for a sports line. It just so happens that Kathleen was there and they thought it would be a cool photo to take. That was never a tagline, as far as I know, and what I have been told, was never a tagline used by Star Wars as an official Star Wars tagline. I don't know if somebody in the comments wants to like correct me on that, you can, but I do believe it was a sports advertising campaign for a sports brand.
And you would think that they would go into the next year making some adjustments. And it doesn't seem like they're making any adjustments whatsoever. In fact, it's like they're still...
Well, it is an adjustment. She's the first woman directing a Star Wars movie. So that is an adjustment, because what they were doing before wasn't working, according to you guys, right? Like you were saying that the other trilogy that was $1 billion trilogy with the 3 films, that didn't work. So they're trying something different. This is different. It's just not the kind of different that you want.
Operating as if it's 2016. So they haven't changed anything. That memo has not been got.
They have, because this is the first woman directing a Star Wars movie. The fuck?
So I know people have talked about Bob Iger saying things like, hey, we never wanted to be involved in a culture war stuff and all that. Nothing is stopped here. Definitely when you understand how this...
hiring a woman to direct a Star Wars movie is not being part of a culture war. I don't understand why you guys are so afraid of women. It's really fucking weird.
Type of stuff works, and people on like Campaign Trail, they're talking about various things. They have their list of topics that they can and cannot talk about and discuss.
Campaign Trail? She's not campaigning for anything. She was being interviewed about her life and how excited she is to be a part of the Star Wars franchise. She wasn't campaigning. She already got the job. What is she campaigning for? You just politics immediately in your mind for everything?
So if you don't think that they highlighted this on purpose, you're crazy. This was something that they wanted to lead with. They wanted to lead with the fact that she was person of color first, whatever. And they made up a fake record for her. Did you hear that? Where they were like, first, what did they say? It was like the first filmmaker, first female filmmaker. It's like what ESPN does. So you guys that watch this shit all the time. It was the first female filmmaker to win 2 Academy Awards before the age of 37. It's one of those fake stats that like
it's not a fake. Is it fake? Did she not win the awards? Did she not win them? I don't know. I'm not seeing that. The only way it would be fake, though, is if the actual awards they were citing weren't real. The stat isn't fake. You don't like the stat because you think the stat itself is an accolade that they created just to give her some sort of credit, you know, for being on there. Like, it doesn't matter. Oh, she won the awards, but you're upset that they mentioned her age, right? I've got news for you. Those awards, even though I'm not a big award show person, they mean a lot when it comes to filmmaking and people in the industry. So she actually won the awards. You're laughing that this woman has won. Like, I just looked, she's won a multitude of awards. So it wasn't a fake stat.
If you watch sports, they do that type of stuff all the time. The first person to dunk a basketball under the 2-minute mark, and they do all that type of stuff. So it's a very, very, very similar thing. And they gave her the accolades.
But is it a lie? If it's not a lie, then who gives a fuck?
Accolades have nothing to do with this. It's more to do with activism and other stuff, and nothing to do with like.
Not really. I'm looking at her awards here. Between 2007 and 2018, she's had a lot of awards in filmmaking. Now, it might not be like Star Wars movies, but she's done a lot of stuff for documentaries and TV stuff and things like that. So she's done things. I don't know why you're trying to diminish this person's work.
The entertainment element of it. But I have to ask you, I don't know if you looked in. I haven't looked much into Charmaine. I for sure want to get your thoughts on this whole ordeal.
Oh, I have.
Oh, thank you. That's why we have you here. So, okay, I'll ask you this, and then I'm going to let you kind of do what you do.
We're not going to listen to all that.
Has this person, considering this is Lucasfilm, Star Wars, right? Big brand, yada, yada. Has this person done anything of the likes that leads you to believe that they were hand-selected because they were the right person for the job?
Yeah, don't be fucking stupid.
All right, so we're going to leave it there and kind of move on from that. So here's the deal. Couple things. Everybody gets a first time at something. Eric himself has been very upset for a while now that people have been criticizing him about his work with Isom, a comic book that he wrote for the first time. He's a comic book person that did a lot of things with his comics and his stories and his business for the first time. Everybody gets to do something for the first time. They might be successful. They might not be successful. Nothing is guaranteed. Doesn't matter. If you are a business person and you think that everything is guaranteed, you are in for a rude awakening. This person is getting hired because they believe that she can bring a unique perspective to Star Wars based on the kind of movie that they want to make. That's why they brought her in. Here's another thing that you have to understand. Star Wars does not give a fuck. Lucasfilm, Disney, does not give a fuck about you. Like a 6,000 view video. On the top end, you might get 15, maybe 20K views on this video. They don't give a fuck about anything that you have to say about their business. They don't care. They do not care. They're not going to change their business practices for you guys. Their last trilogy made billions of dollars. They don't care. They don't even care about me. They don't care about people that are being positive about their media. They don't give a shit. Nothing you say or do or talk about here matters to them. It is simply content made by a spiteful group of people who want to hate on a franchise. Don't men sitting around making fun of a woman who has probably had to fight a lot in her life to get things. She's had to fight really hard to overcome the kind of misogyny and bullshit that they're doing in this video. And the community these guys cultivate is built on spite. It's all spiteful stuff. People will go on to remember all of the people involved with Star Wars over the years, and none of them will remember Az or Air July. They won't. These guys are simply just a spoke in the wheel of hate and bigotry here on YouTube. And I fear that YouTube has lost the plot. Like, they just have. However, again, diminishing returns are happening with these channels. People are finally waking up to it. I think a lot of people in that space are tired of hearing the word woke. They're tired of hearing identity politics. They're just as tired of it being talked about by these guys as they are presumably of seeing it in media. So the end is near for these kinds of channels. I don't know how many years we have left with people that are willing to just hear woke, SJW stuff all day. I have no clue, but I do know that a lot of people are moving away from it. They're growing up, hopefully. These guys have no actual power. The culture war, the astroturfing, all of this stuff, it's things that they do because that's all the power they have. They can't sway Lucasfilm. They can't sway Marvel. Anything that happens with those businesses has almost nothing to do with anything that these guys are saying. The only time that the stars align for them is when they happen to get lucky that something that underperforms is also something that they didn't like, because they have no power over any of that. It's absolutely hilarious to me that adults are sitting around getting excited about the downfall of Star Wars because a woman was hired to work on it and she's excited about it. It's just miserable. It's absolutely miserable, trollish bullshit.